And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Top Dog Talk podcast. I'm your host, Harris Reno, alongside co-host Dan Kiley. Georgia 2024 SEC schedule reactions are in. Uh, Probably not what many were expecting. At least for me, I think the schedules turned out a lot better than I thought they would. I didn't think we'd get as many fireworks, but hey, Greg Sankey wanted to pull out all the stops in that SEC office in Birmingham, and my God, Dan, we got another narrative that got crushed. Georgia ain't playing nobody. Well, we're not going to be hearing that for a long, long time. Dan, I just wanted to get your initial thoughts on the schedule reaction before we deep dive into everything we got here on the show notes today.
It was kind of funny when you and I were talking about this the other day. I said I might surprise you that I'm not as enthusiastic maybe as you or some other people might be. It is relevant. It's important because I know a lot of people really do care about it. But at the end of the day, you got to play who you got to play. You can, we always say you play who's on your schedule, right? And when people want to say Georgia's got a weak schedule or Georgia's got a great schedule, there's so many factors that go into that. When you schedule the game, was that team any good? And then also the teams that you're playing, like if they're no good, that's their problem, not your problem, right? So I always say you play who you're going to play. I wasn't like really upset or looking forward to it really and all that, all that much. But then once they kind of came out and you saw them, obviously I'm a human, just like you're a human. As far as I know, you're not an android or something, but you're going to have a reaction, and that's what this is about. It's all about reactions. Like obviously some schedules are easier than others, and some are pretty difficult. So I'm interested to hear your takes on them, and I'm going to give you my takes on them, and let's get to it, brother.
Absolutely. Real quick, for those at home who are living under a rock for the last 24 hours, Georgia's home schedule for SEC opponents only is as follows. Georgia will play Auburn, Mississippi State, and Tennessee at home. They will play Texas, Alabama, Kentucky, and Ole Miss on the road. Obviously, they are the designated home team for the Florida game, which is why they have one less home game than they do a road game, much probably to the dismay of Kirby Smart. But hey, Georgia will get a big game on campus in 2024. It is Tennessee. Dan, that is the one thing that I was worried about when the leak started coming out about this, what the schedule will look like is, hey, who's Georgia getting at home? Like, are they going to get a big home game? Because really, your two biggest games of the season, at least from conference perspective, will be Texas and Alabama, both on the road. Ideally, you'd like one of those teams, to come at home. Obviously, Texas or Alabama is going to attract a massive crowd. A lot of people are going to be watching those games. It would be another great showing for Athens to put on a show there. But hey, you get Tennessee at home, in which, Dan, I'm actually getting into this real quick. I'm actually very happy that Georgia's playing Tennessee in 24 because I'm still not able to wrap my head around the idea of what Georgia's going to look like not playing Tennessee and Auburn every year.
Well, I mean, you could say that, but we're playing them both in the same year. So, I mean, listen, I don't know how it's going to work out. And I'm sure that who is our permanent opponent? Have they said that yet?
Florida.
Florida's our permanent opponent. And you only get one now?
I believe it's only just one.
I mean, that's just kind of like, I know that Florida is important or whatever, but Auburn and Georgia is the South's oldest rivalry. It's not Georgia's oldest rivalry. It's not Auburn's oldest rivalry. I mean, they are, but it's the South's oldest rivalry. So I think that's going to, and, for the longest time until Georgia started to win at such a high level, I mean, like when I was growing up, everybody made the joke that Auburn and Georgia were kissing cousins. And, like we're the same thing, basically. And, those two schools paralleled themselves perfectly. So you're right. It's going to be weird not having them on your schedule every single year. But, I guess my instant reaction to this, Harrison, just looking at it is, if you're only going to play teams every 4 years, how are they going to balance out the home and away? And why does it always seem like whenever there's a one-off, why do we always have to play Alabama at Alabama? Now, I mean, again, I'm not crying. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying it just always seems that way. I mean, the last time I remember Georgia playing Alabama at home was like during the Mark Richt era when we got absolutely shellacked wearing the black jerseys. So maybe we don't want them to come to Athens. But it just always seems like that game is always in Alabama. And, as much as Nick Saban cries, that's not surprising. Yeah, that's a great question, Rudes. Where's the good home games? Georgia gets screwed a lot with the home games. That's just a fact. You can print it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, whenever they travel on the road somewhere, it feels like, okay, like say Auburn. Auburn on the road, usually, at least recently, whenever Georgia's on the road at Auburn, Auburn's a good team. But whenever Auburn comes to Athens, they get mollywopped because they're not a good team. But I'm looking at the history, Dan, between these two sides. To your point about Alabama and Georgia, you are correct. They haven't been to Athens since 2015. Georgia has since played them in Tuscaloosa in 2020. But dating back a little bit, Georgia played them. Alabama came to Athens twice in a row. This has happened before for Georgia. It was in 2008. They were in Athens, and then they came to Athens again in 2015. So, I mean, this has happened. Georgia's played them twice in a row in Athens. Bama's played Georgia and Tuscaloosa twice in a row. I don't know if that has anything to do with this. I don't know how that was determined. My take is, and I could be completely wrong, I think Texas A&M complaining and demanding that they need to play Texas at Kyle Field has kind of helped screw Georgia out of playing one of those two teams at home, because I would have certainly loved to see Texas and Athens first year. Not that location matters because Dog Nation's going to travel wherever they are. But yeah, I think, I don't know. That's just my hunch that A&M, whining and saying, well, we want our way, has maybe kind of shafted Georgia in a sense that they don't get two of their biggest games at home. But hey, at the end of the day, the biggest thing that I like about this new scheduling and the proposed format is Georgia's going to play every opponent in the SEC every 4 years, a 4-year rotation. That means in 2028, give or take, Georgia will play Alabama and Texas in Athens. That's awesome. That's going to be entertaining as heck. And Dan, another reaction that I kind of have, which, it's probably going to change as this goes on. It's that new factor. It's like, oh my God, this is so great. Is, Dan, I look at this schedule, this in-conference perspective schedule, and every single one of these games, to me, is something you can get up for. There is no Vanderbilt. There is no Missouri on the road. Every game just has that, just little something to it. And now that can obviously change because Florida can suck. Mississippi State can suck. Although I don't think anybody will have trouble getting up for a Florida game. That's always fun. Even when they have sucked or Georgia sucked, people still go. People have fun in those games. But hey, Mississippi State and Ole Miss, out of the current West teams, two West teams, if you're not gonna give me LSU and Alabama, I want Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Dan, it doesn't feel like there's a trap game on this schedule in conference perspective.
I do think it is a little bit funny when you look at it from that perspective. You talk about there's not a trap game, and I agree with you there. But, one of the biggest issues with going to this conference schedule that everybody was fussing about was that every year Georgia's going to lose a home, or, every other year Georgia's going to lose a home game. And by God, do they not get it the very first year where we lose the home game. So we really only have 3 home games. Everybody else has 4. And, that is the issue with playing in Jacksonville, is that game is, and with that being our permanent opponent, like nobody else has that. Like no other team has that, where one of their biggest games of the year is a neutral site game. I mean, I guess, is Texas and Oklahoma, they don't play the Red River rivalry anymore, right? They don't play it
They still play in the Cotton Bowl.
Do they? Okay,
Yeah.
so then they lose a game too. So and this particular year, that would be Oklahoma that loses a home game. So okay, I guess I stand corrected.
But it's it's only those two. You look at everybody else. I mean, Alabama plays their biggest rivals at home. To Smart's credit, to Kirby's credit, LSU plays their biggest rival at home. Home and away, year to year. And Dan, remind me, because I know we talked about it heading into the Georgia-Florida week. You've been to Jacksonville. What is your stance on all of this? Do you have a stance on the Georgia-Florida game and its future?
Well, I mean, I did. I went while I was in college, and it was a hell of a time. I mean, I've heard it is very different than from when I went. I mean, I went in 2003. It was the year that David Green and DJ Shockley were kind of going back and forth. DJ, it was getting plays, and they subbed in DJ Shockley to play for David Green, and he threw a pick 6 to Alito Shepherd, and we lost the game because of that. I'm not saying it's all DJ's fault, but it was DJ's fault. and I was drunker than hell. But it's a great time. Like for a fan, it's a great time. But now that I'm older, like that's not really something that interests me. Driving that far for that game, I guess I don't know the prestige of it, I guess, or the new. I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but the something about it is just not. It's not there anymore. Like mystique maybe of and it was a much bigger deal when I was younger. It's not that big of a deal anymore. I don't know why. I mean, yeah, Rudes is 100% right. Jacksonville's miserable for traveling, and like I remember being down there, and like the only real thing to do was go to the oh hell, it was like a mall, but the mall was shaped like a horseshoe, and they had like live music and stuff like that, and I just remember about halfway through it, this drunk dude fell off the top railing and landed on me and my buddy Trey, and we spilled beer all over the place, and then Trey whipped his tail and just started fighting him, and then the cops came, and I was like, oh wait, this is not how I envisioned this night ending. But I mean, it was great. Like I said, I went one time and that was enough for me. Like, I had a chance to go a couple more times, and every single time I just didn't want to go. I didn't want to spend the money. It wasn't worth it to me. But I know there are so many Georgia fans that love it, love it, love it, love it. Amelia Island is close, and a lot of people go down to Amelia Island, and we actually vacationed with my mom down at Amelia Island, have the last couple of years, and we love it down there. It's really, really nice, and it makes a lot of sense. And it is Georgia country, my God, down there at Amelia Island. And people, I've always heard that during that weekend, that's a really fun place to be. I haven't been in Amelia Island during that weekend, but I heard it's an amazing place to be. But, the one thing I will tell you is that the Florida fans, you can't find them during the day. You can't find them before that game is played. But by God, if you lose, they come out of the woodworks, brother, and they are not afraid to tell you to take your ass back up to, take I-10 and all those other highways and get your ass out of Jacksonville. And it's not like that song, Corey Smith's song, that long ride back from Jacksonville in a game we should have won. Yeah. There's plenty of Georgia fans that can commiserate with that. But I get it. A lot of people absolutely love it. For me, it's just not a big thing.
And I wonder if that has something to do with maybe Florida just being down for as long as they have been. I
Probably.
mean, when was the last? I mean, they had a great season in, was it 19?
2 years ago.
19 or no, it was 20. Yeah, 20. You're right. 2020, they had a great season, did well. They beat Georgia for the first time under Dan Mullen, the only time under Dan Mullen. And like, hey, it felt like Florida was on the verge of maybe being back to national prominence, but ever since then, they haven't done nothing. They really haven't been, on national prominence before that, dating back to the late 2010s, early 2010s, I should say, when Urban Meyer was there. Will Muschamp didn't work out down there. As everyone knows, he's on staff at Georgia now. But yeah, maybe that has something to do with the fluctuating of the Georgia-Florida rivalry, with Georgia being good, Florida being bad, Florida being good, Georgia being bad or average, as everybody would say. But Dan, kind of looking at this from another perspective is, there's been this long narrative that Georgia don't play nobody. I saw it on Twitter yesterday. I've seen it on Twitter today. Everyone's saying y'all won 2 national championships without playing anybody. And I'm sitting here thinking, damn, I'm losing brain cells because this isn't the 1960s anymore. This isn't where if I go undefeated, I can claim a national championship. This isn't, despite what UCF thinks, despite that, you earn your championship. You have to play in the playoffs. You play 2 extra games a year in the playoffs to determine the national champion. We created the BCS to crown a national champion because we were tired of Joe Blow's magazine being able to name another champion and somebody else being able to name another champion. All of these disputed champions, we made the BCS to do that for us. Top 2 teams play. Then we made the playoffs when we got tired of that. 4-team playoff. The top 4 teams in the country, quote unquote, play to determine the national champion. Georgia has won 4 games, 2 championships. I don't know why this keeps coming up. I get it. The regular season schedule on paper has not been great. hasn't been great on paper, but the game isn't played on paper, Dan. It's not played on paper. There's been tons of times in the past 2 years, Arkansas game on paper, preseason talk, nobody's interested. Georgia's going to run through them. But when that game came around, by God, that game was great. That was a meaningful game. Yeah, Georgia blew them out. Georgia won, but Arkansas was a ranked team. I don't get it, Dan.
Well, it's lazy, and like you talk about instant reactions. I noticed that the instant reaction from everybody who's not a Georgia fan is, "Oh, ha! Georgia actually has to play somebody now." It's like, well, yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, I'll tell you this much: freaking Texas fans better not say nothing about a weak ass schedule, because like their schedule is terrible. I mean, they got Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, and Mississippi State at home. And now, if Texas is supposed to be a good team, right? I mean, let's just play on that theory that they're supposed to be a good team. The only game that they could lose out of that game would be Georgia, right? And then on the road, they got Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt. They should be able to walk through that schedule. Oklahoma is not what Oklahoma has been. Now, granted, like you said, that because you're a closet Texas fan, is that the Oklahoma game could go either way because it's a rivalry, and then the Texas A&M game could go either way because it's a rivalry. I got you. I understand that. They're both on the road. That makes it a little bit more difficult, but their home schedule, other than Georgia, is pretty easy.
It's pretty favorable. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you look at, well, I mean, like you said, South Carolina might have an easy schedule. I don't think so. They could lose to LSU. They could lose to Ole Miss at home. They could lose to Texas A&M at home. They could lose to Alabama on the road. They will lose to Alabama on the road. They could lose to Oklahoma. So, I mean, that's still a 4-loss schedule, possibly maybe 5-loss schedule. So, and that's just their, SEC schedule. So, Vanderbilt doesn't have a real daunting schedule. They got Alabama, Tennessee, Texas at home. I don't know. I think they did a pretty good job of spreading out. Like you see, I think Oklahoma's probably got the hardest schedule. It's my opinion. Oklahoma's got Alabama at home. They could lose that game. South Carolina, they should win that game. Texas and Tennessee, both at home. Granted, they're at home, but those are really good football teams. And on the road, they got Auburn, which we don't know which Auburn's going to show up. It could be a good Auburn. It could be a bad Auburn. LSU is going to be good every single year. They always are. Ole Miss, you never know which Ole Miss you're going to get. And then Missouri, their road schedule's not that bad. I mean, really, LSU is the only one that jumps out at you like, but home, that's a loaded home schedule, buddy. And I know you want your biggest games at home, but man, that's a hell of a lot of talent coming in to Oklahoma. And like I said, I think they did a pretty decent job of spreading it around. My only real gripe, and I think you agree with me on this, well, I know you do because you just said it a few minutes ago, is that Georgia just doesn't have a marquee home game. Unless Tennessee is, really biting on our heels, then that game becomes explosive. And you can't count Florida because that game's not at home, right? I mean, if that game is at home, then the schedule doesn't look that bad. And then, Auburn's going to – but you're – going back to your overall point, and this is why I'm trying to complain about their home schedule, but at the end of the day, you get Auburn, which is a big name team, Mississippi State, which is not, I mean, they're okay, and then you get Tennessee at home. So you get names, you get names at home. So if you looked at our schedule last couple of years, it's like Arkansas at home, Vanderbilt at home, Missouri at home, Kentucky at home, and that's your home schedule, and you're like, boo. I don't want.
We never play Vanderbilt on the road. We always are at home when we play Vanderbilt.
But you know what I'm saying? That would be like your home schedule, and like none of those games are intriguing. Like I don't care about any of those games. But when you say, "Hey, listen, do you want to go to the Georgia Auburn game this weekend?" Yeah, I'll go. Hey, do you want to go see them play Tennessee this weekend? Yeah, I'll go. Do you want to go see Mississippi State? Yeah, I'll go watch that game. Like you know what I'm saying? Like none of them are like, no, I will sit at home and just fall asleep at halftime. So it's not bad. I think it's inevitable or not inevitable. Unenvying. I don't know. Like the envy. Like I don't envy the person who has to make. And I can't say that word. I don't know why. It's not.
You got it right. You got it right. Envy. You got it right.
No, but anyway, the whole point is whoever had to come up and put this together. I don't envy that person because it's not easy. Making the schedules are not easy. If you've ever had to do it before, I have to put basketball schedules and stuff together. It is not an easy thing to do, and you're going to piss somebody off. At the end of the day, somebody's pissed off, and then everybody's pissed off about somebody else. their schedule is way too easy. So it is what it is. I just hope that Georgia doesn't continually get screwed with all of their really big games on the road. You would think it would even out at some point. At least, hell, the way I look at it, at least we don't have Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, Texas, Tennessee, all on the schedule the same year. It's like, so we'll be all right. I mean, I put on, this is why I hate Twitter. Oh my God. I mean, this is a tangent, but I just freaking hate Twitter. Jonathan posted a video talking about we got Texas and Alabama on the road. And I put, damn, time to strap up. And somebody's like, basically, we ain't scared of nobody or whatever. I'm like, where the hell did I say I was scared of anybody? I just said it's time to strap up. And if you've ever played football, when I tell you to strap them up tight, it means it's time to go hit somebody, right? I mean, hello, my people. Like, if I tell you to strap up, does that mean we're scared and we're going to go run? I mean, I hate, like, bro, like, this is another dog fan, so I didn't, like, go at him hard, but I'm like, damn, ain't nobody say nothing about being scared. Said it's time to strap up and go bust some heads. So I don't know. Yeah, you can get me off the solo screen. It's not a real rant. I mean, damn, like people always looking to start shit.
Every segment has to feel important, and it is. We get a Dan rant part 1. We're really excited for Dan rant part 2. Dan wanted to do this yesterday. Had some scheduling conflicts come up yesterday. And Dan, hey, happy birthday to your boy, Dan. I don't know. Happy early birthday to him.
Early birthday.
Early birthday, Dan. Yeah. I told Dan yesterday, I'm like, Dan, the people don't care when you miss a show to be with family, dude. They don't care. Like, it doesn't matter to them. They want you to be with your family. Zach was late for the show to help his grandpa out with getting the bush hog off his tractor. Excellent reason to be late, as Ruth says. Help the family out when you can. Be with family when you can, guys. That's the end of the day. Top Dog Talk is your second family away from home. But hey, come be with us when you can. Same thing for Dan and I. We will be with you when we can. Dan, to kind of go off your point, I saw a hot take today and got me thinking. I want your take on it before we get to your rant, before we take us home with Dan's rant of the week. They're saying, I seen a take. It was 247 Sports. That's where I saw it. Wrote an article about their schedule takeaways for each team. They think Auburn's schedule lends them to being a dark horse to being an 8-win, 9-win team. And you look at it, okay, you have 2 losses, Alabama, Georgia. Like, okay, on the road, you're going to lose those 2 games most likely. You play Oklahoma, you play A&M. A&M, to me, depending on what those teams are, is a toss-up. A&M has more talent, but, you don't know where Auburn's going to be in year 2 under Hugh Freeze. What do you say, Dan? Because I look at that schedule, and it may be stupid of me to chalk up Alabama as a loss because, the Iron Bowl, there's been some really great moments in that game that make me think, hey, if this was Gus Malzahn, I wouldn't say that. Even with Hugh Freeze, I don't know if I want to say that. But, Dan, what do you think about that take?
Listen, with Auburn, my concern for Auburn is figure out who the hell you are before you start worrying about, like, trying to run the table and all that other stuff. Because and I know I'm in the minority in this because you and I have had this conversation a little bit, and you don't think Oklahoma is going to bounce back. You don't think Venables is going to be a very long-term candidate there at Oklahoma, and you may be 100% right. You may be right, and I may be wrong. But Oklahoma is just one of those programs that don't go dormant. Like, they just don't, or haven't. They haven't. Okay, so they've got a lot of things right now. Maybe they got Venables wrong. I just don't see them going dormant. So I have a very hard time ever looking at a schedule with Oklahoma on it and chalking that up as an L for Oklahoma. Like, I know when we played Oklahoma, and we could have lost to them, right? And a lot of people want to talk trash about Oklahoma, but man, Oklahoma was a really good football team that year, and they're going to be a good time all the time. Like, I don't know. Like, Arkansas, yeah, is that a game that they should win? Absolutely. Oklahoma and Texas A&M on the home side, I question both of them. Vanderbilt, they should be able to take care of business on the road. You got Alabama, Georgia. If everything is the way it's supposed to be, those should be losses. Now, Kentucky and Missouri on the road, those should be easy wins. But you can circle 4 games on the 8-game schedule that theoretically it's not, or not theoretically, but like it's not crazy to say they lose all 4 of those games. So, but
But the point was, like, they're going to win. They're a dark horse. I mean, they can win 8, 9 games in year 2. And you look at their out of conference schedule to add on to that, they got UMass, California, and Sanford. Or wait, sorry, wrong year. That's this year. But why are we not getting on Auburn? Why are people not on them? Just because they're not good? I mean, they have California.
People don't care.
24. Is this? Yeah, it's 24. California, New Mexico, and Louisiana Monroe. That's their away schedule. That's 3. That should be 3 wins. California in Jordan-Hare should be 3 wins right there. And if you have 4 games, you lose in the SEC, and you go perfect the rest of the way, that chalks it up. I mean, that perfectly chalks it up to 8. An 8-9 win season, depending on how you do in the
Well, this is the way I look at it. Auburn, you put me, isolate me right here. I want to speak to the Auburn fans. I just want to speak to you from the depth of my soul. Auburn, I hope you're happy with your 8 wins. Okay. I hope that's the pinnacle of your career in your program. If that's what you want to strive to, is be an 8-win program, I salute you, and I hope you enjoy them. So go ahead and just be excited for your 8 wins.
Hey, Dan out here giving messages to his fellow Americans out there in Auburn country. Dan, let's get into Dan's rant of the week. That about covers it. The SEC schedule reactions. We had recruiting, but I'm still trying to power over signals real quick because I don't want to be on here losing my voice. But Dan, your rant of the week is a hot topic, very, very hot topic. So I'm gonna let you take it away.
All right, so my rant of the week. I don't know a whole hell of a lot about this guy, except for what I've learned in the past, 72 hours. And it's Baby Gronk's dad. It's not Baby Gronk. It's Baby Gronk's dad. It's this cat. Here's the thing is, if you're around youth sports long enough, he's not the only one. There are a bunch of, like, there's this page on Facebook you can get on, is Gwinnett Sports whatever, Gwinnett Sports Talk or whatever, and it's like GFL Sports Talk. So it's all the parents of people whose kids play in the GFL, and there are at least 10 to 12 Baby Gronk dads in that group where it's all about their kid. They're posting highlight videos of their kid every single week. It's like, bro, ain't nobody asked for that. Nobody wants to see it. My biggest take is the kid may be a good football player, but he's not a great football player. They're talking about he's the best 4th grader in the entire world. It's like, I don't know where you're from, but come down here to the GFL. Come down here to Gwinnett County. Come play down here, because I want to see that kid playing against other kids who are just as good as he is. Because I told Harrison on the phone yesterday, you can come down to the GFL. I will take you to a 4th, 5th grade game, and you'll see 10 kids in a weekend that are just as good, if not better, than Baby Gronk. Like, his dad is living in a fairy tale world where he's isolated, and he's probably the best player on his team and probably the best player in his league, but he's not the best player in the country. And if you look at these other kids, I mean, I have seen some kids that are unfreaking believable play in the GFL. I mean, you're right. He is grooming him in a bad way. And the one that caked it for me, that put the cherry on the top, was when Harrison sent me the video of that podcast that he did, where he was stopping the podcaster over and over again and then telling his son what to say. This is what, hey, ask him again, say this. Ask him again, say this. And he was telling him some ridiculous shit. Like, I would never have my son speaking that way, ever. And you can say, well, your son's not Baby Gronk because Baby Gronk's a superstar. Well, hey, I'm just like every other dad in the world. I want my son to be successful. I want my son to be great. In the back of my mind, I feel like if he works hard enough, he could be great. He absolutely could be great. And I hope that one day he's the next Tom Brady. And I hate Tom Brady, but that's besides the point. But you get my point. I want him to be the best quarterback in the world. And is he that now? No. But does he have talent? Yes. Am I out here making videos for him? Yeah, like I put videos up for him so that, like, hopefully he gets seen recruiting wise, tag people and whatever. But like, just, I mean, like, I don't have any problem with that. Like, in today's culture, you have to publicize your kid. If you want the attention, you have to publicize your kid. But there is a really good way to do it, a healthy way to do it. And then there is the baby Gronk's dad way to do it. And that's just the wrong way. Now, a lot of people are pointing to LeVar Ball, right? LeVar Ball's kids were absolutely legit, and they were playing the best talent. He was flying them on, that's unhealthy too, but at the same time, at least they were traveling trying to find the best talent to play. So, like, you can make the argument that, like his sons were competing against the very best that the world had to offer, and they were being successful. And, it's hard to say that LeVar Ball did it wrong because all three of his kids got drafted and, are in the NBA. So go ahead.
Real quick, though, there's a difference here. All the Ball kids they're basically finished products as in terms of growth, as in terms of they've already gone through puberty. We already know what they look like. Baby Gronk is what? Maybe 5 foot flat, if that. He's in 5th grade.
Fourth grade.
4th grade? There is a long way to go before he even talks about playing high school football. We saw all the Ball kids in high school.
Well, that's my point, Harrison. You made my point for me, and thank you so much for doing that. Is that I always call it the sperm lottery, and you can laugh at that or whatever. It's like some of these kids are born bigger, faster, stronger than everybody else, but once puberty hits, then genetics take over. So what your mom and dad look like have a lot to do with what you're going to look like. And if you I see all these fat moms that are like 4'5", 400 pounds, and tell me, "Oh, my baby going to run the world. My baby going to be the best player ever." And I'm like, "No, you're like 5 foot tall." And the husband is like 5'6". It's like, your son is 5'6" in 4th grade. Guess what he's not going to be? 6'5". And then it happens every time. And it plays out year after year where all of these kids that were so much ahead of everybody else in youth ball, once they get to 8th, 9th grade and then they get into high school, you never hear those kids again. I mean, if I look at the varsity team at the high school right now, most of those kids were D2 kids in 8th grade or didn't play at all in rec ball. You have very few, like probably 3 or 4 that I could point to that were stars all the way through the GFL into high school. Caleb Downs, 1 of 1, right? That guy was a star from the first time I saw him to the time he left Mill Creek. There's another kid that plays on my son's team who I love to death. His name is Luke Metz. He was bigger, faster, and stronger. Guess what? In high school, still bigger, faster, stronger. That kid hits like a freaking Mack truck. I promise you, if Baby Gronk would have hit Luke Metz when Luke Metz was in 4th grade, he would have laid Baby Gronk's ass out. No questions in my mind. There's just a lot of them, but most of them don't grow, and genetics take over. And that's the one thing I always told my son. There was early on, really successful, kind of in the middle, everybody blew past him. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Once you get to high school, things are going to happen for you because I'm 6'5", and so-and-so's dad is 5'7". So, and then, once we got into high school, Cannon shot right up. These other kids are still small. So, it's across the board. It's everywhere. There's Baby Gronk's dads everywhere. But this guy's absolutely a joke. It's clown central. I don't know if any of you guys are old enough to know who Bozo the Clown is. I wish you were. I hope somebody gets that reference. But, his daddy needs that big red nose on those talk shows. And, it's funny because he went after Taylor Lewan and Will Compton. A lot of these NFL guys try to get on their show, and they're like, bro, we are not having you on our show. Absolutely not. Praise Will Compton. Will Compton's out here calling this man out, and I'm loving it. Will Compton pulls no punches. I can't say half the stuff I want to say because Harrison, he censors me, which is probably good for my own being. But, Will Compton is not censoring, and Taylor Lewan is like, this guy's a joke. So Taylor Lewan's like, I'd knock your ass out. And I love that energy. But, it's just a shame because I think the kid's probably a good kid. And he wants to have fun, and he wants, this is in a much bigger argument for a later time is that these kids aren't allowed to enjoy youth sports anymore. And that's the part that really, really hurts my feelings or hurts my soul is that kids are not allowed to enjoy youth sports anymore. It's become way too much too fast. And, I hope I expressed my sentiments on this. clearly, I don't have hate for the kid, although I don't think he's as good as he thinks he is. But then again, we don't honestly know what he thinks because his dad is his mouthpiece and speaks for him and then tells him what to say. So, I don't know what the honest opinion of the kid is, but I know the dad's a freaking clown, and I would call him that to his face. And you're like, oh, you wouldn't call it? Yes, I would. I'm twice his size. I would not have a problem doing that. So, anyway, that's what I would say.
Dan's run of the week. You got Dan's take on Baby Gronk, and yeah, I texted Dan the interview with the podcast and the dad. I told Dan in text, I was sitting there fuming as a podcast host. If we ever had somebody on this show that made us redo questions to get the answer right, within 2 or 3 attempts, I would say, nope, no, I'm not doing it. I'm cutting this off. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not going to feed into this. I'm just not. I lost patience watching it over and over. Nope, redo that, bro. Redo that. Say this. I can't do it. Couldn't watch it. I ended up watching, powered on through it all, but I'm sitting there. I'm like, man, I wish that podcast host just said, nope, we're done. I'm going to expose you. This is fake. Boom. We're just going to leave.
I was going to say, piggybacking off of what you just said, at first I was angry at the podcast, like, why are you playing into this? And then I realized that they were going along with it because they were going to play the whole thing to show what a freaking joke this guy is. I hope that's what they meant to do because that's the way I took it after I kind of like marinated on it for a second. At first I was like, come on. But then I was like, wait a minute, they played this whole thing for a reason. It's to show what a clown this guy is. But I mean, I feel bad for the kid, to be honest. Where's the mom at? Like, Allison would never let me do that shit, ever. Like, I mean, I feel like I have a good, healthy relationship at home. But if I did some nonsense like that on a podcast when I got home, my wife would be waiting at the front door with a bat to beat me upside the head for embarrassing her son. So, that's why I wouldn't do it. I mean, I don't know. That's just me.
Guys, that's going to wrap it up for episode 89 of the Top Top podcast. You got schedule reactions. Next week, we have an announcement to make. Future guests. I got to run it by Dan, but I am lining something up. I got to run it by Dan. See what we want to do. We are going to talk Georgia recruiting next week. That is on the schedule for next week already. Starting playing that out in my head. Oh. Dan's going to come with a new rant, and we're going to have hot topics back. I wanted to get this schedule reactions in there right away to get that to y'all. So, hey, if you missed the beginning of the show, part of the show, go back to the beginning. We talked schedule reactions for about 20 minutes. Talk Georgia, talk Florida, talk Auburn, talk just about everything. So go check that out if you missed it. Guys,
I have a question for everybody. Is if anybody's here or if you're listening later, you can text me or you can text Harrison or hit us up on Twitter. But like, what would your reaction be about having some young athletes on here, whether it be high school guys getting recruited, maybe not necessarily about Georgia, but to hear about their recruiting experience, or even in another circumstance, having another young high school kid who wants to get into media come on here and hear their take, maybe hear a take from somebody who's living amongst these people being recruited. So, I would love to hear what you guys have to say as far as having some younger voices come on. Would you be receptive to that, or would that be annoying? So, hit us up. Let us know some feedback. What do you want to hear? Because we're here for you guys. Without you guys, there's no point. We're just talking to ourselves, which we would probably do that anyway. But we want to hear what you want to do.
Dan, real quick, I did put a poll in there on YouTube. 60% of our viewers were not happy with Georgia's schedule. Only 40% were. So interesting there. I guess that kind of mimics what I've seen on Twitter. I think it's kind of 60-40. People aren't happy. Probably most likely due to having to play Alabama and Tuscaloosa twice in a row, which I totally understand. But either way, when you play out, like they said, like the old saying goes, if you want to be the guy, you have to beat the guy. And
Woo!
Georgia has to beat Alabama, whether it's on the road, whether it's at home or neutral site. That does not take away from the fact you have to beat them. And with, no divisions, really just going off best record, that's a must-win game as much as it has been. Georgia can't lose that game and afford to maybe lose another game to somebody they shouldn't in the East, in the quote-on East, and still go to the SEC championship. That's no more. you don't have room to mess up as much anymore because it's going by best record. So if there's two Western Division teams that are undefeated, well, both of them are going to go play in the SEC Championship over a Georgia team that may have 1 or 2 losses. So it is a must-win wherever that game is. So Zach says I was happy with it. Georgia versus the world. Let's go. I think
strap it up, boys.
So, guys, hey, we'll be back next Wednesday, 7:30 here on the Top podcast. Hey, make sure to go like and subscribe. Go follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can find Dan Kiley at Dan Kiley3. Go interact with them. Trying to build this channel up. Trying to get some trying to get some more top dogs here in the mix here. Guys, that's going to wrap it up. Make sure to like, subscribe, rate and review the podcast. We got some rate reviews in. All 5 stars, 100% 5 stars out of the people that have rated and reviewed this show. We appreciate y'all. We'll see you next week.